I'm so glad you stopped in today for this author interview. Hi, I'm Judy Waters. Welcome to my channel. Here I bring you author interviews of ordinary people, who had a story they had to share with the world. I also bring you short little writing prompts to get the creative juices going in your own brain so you can write down your own stories for your generations to come. Because you know what? You have a story to tell, so let me help you tell it. Let me introduce you to Lori Vober. Statistics state that there's only a 50% survival rate for those who have the type of stroke that Lori experienced. And out of those who do survive, only 20% are expected to live an independent life. So, by not only surviving, but thriving and going on to becoming a mom of 3 adopted kids, Lori truly beat the odds. Years after her recovery, she felt called to write her story and start speaking in hopes of encouraging and equipping others that may also be experiencing challenges, because life is not easy. Life rarely turns out exactly like we pictured it. And how we handle the path with its roadblocks and detours is up to us. Lori believes God has a plan for each of us. However, He leaves it up to us whether we will have faith in Him and follow His plan. Lori says, I am so thankful I had faith prior to my stroke, and that is what has helped keep me going through the years. Lori is a Bible study teacher, an author, and a speaker. She and her husband live in Goodyear, Arizona. So let me introduce you to Lori Vober. Hello, Lori. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking this time with my audience. I wanted to ask you a few questions about your book. Coming up soon. It's going to be published March 11th, and I think the time that I'll be airing this for my audience will be right on that day. So it's going to be hot off the press. So tell us, Lori, when did you start writing, and what prompted you to write this book?
Well, it's been almost a year since the beginning of my writing journey, and I have talked in the past about writing my own book and writing my own story, and it was going to be very stroke related in the past when I thought about writing. My journey is started because I had suffered a stroke at the age of 29. It was quite a massive stroke caused by a malformation of blood vessels on the right side of my brain that was never detected. And so I had actually made the transition 3 weeks prior to my stroke from corporate America. I was a sales and marketing major in corporate America at the airlines, to a position at our church as the office manager. My husband and I had been trying to start our family and had not been successful yet, and we had hoped that that would lessen the stress by changing careers. And I think actually it saved my life, and God had a bigger plan by helping me change my career. And 3 weeks into the job, I suffered this massive stroke that again was caused by a massive a malformation of blood vessels. And I called my parents that lived close to the church and said I wasn't feeling well, and they met me at the church. And between the church and getting to the hospital, I lost consciousness. I had a 5-hour brain surgery to stop the brain bleed. And I woke up 17 days later out of a drug-induced coma, and I completely lost my left side and was paralyzed on the left side. And I was in the hospital a total of 2 months. I went through a second brain surgery that was a 10-hour brain surgery to remove the malformation. And that was really my story of stroke. And so when I really started thinking about writing a book, I always thought I would write a book about stroke. And about a year ago, God really got my attention and said, I saved you from a stroke and gave you a story, and you haven't written it yet, so get going. So I started writing, and it really transformed into more than just a stroke book, but it's actually called Choices. When you're faced with a challenge, what choice will you make? And along the way, my husband and I have faced many challenges. Soon after my stroke, and I came home from the hospital, he lost his job. He was in the aviation industry just like myself, and 9/11 hit, and he lost his job. And so we transitioned from Minnesota to Arizona, where he found a new job. And at the time, I thought that the transition to Arizona was for the job. However, I think it was actually another opportunity for God to implement his plan, and the fact that it helped my recovery. And I think if we had stayed in Minnesota, I would not have recovered from the stroke the way I had. And so I found a fabulous neurotherapy clinic here in Arizona. I was one of their very first patients, and they really helped my recovery. And so by being in Arizona, that was a huge challenge in the fact that we had to make that transition.
Sure.
At the same time, it was the book transitioned into more than just a stroke book. So to answer your question, it was a year process, but it's now coming out next week.
Awesome. That is awesome. Awesome. So who would you think your audience is?
My audience is anyone who faces a challenge, both big or small.
Okay.
So this is all about challenges and what you're going to do with your challenges. When you're faced with a challenge, we all have a choice of what we're going to do.
Sure.
And then we can either quit, or we can have a good attitude when we're faced with a difficulty. And I was very blessed with a faith prior to my stroke, and I was also blessed, I think, with a perseverance to face my challenges head on. And so I've been able to get through all my challenges because of my attitude, and I tend to look at things with a glass is half full, not half empty.
Good.
And so I think everybody has a choice when you have a challenge. So this book is for everybody who has a challenge, both big or small.
Okay. And what, you were a first-time author. So what was your biggest challenge in writing this book? As you went along day to day writing your book, what was your biggest challenge in writing it?
I think it was just figuring out how to get all of the information that I wanted down. There was so much, and like I said, my husband and I have faced so many different challenges. I just sifting through what information to put in the book.
That's hard to do.
It is
hard to do sometimes because you don't want it to be 1,000 pages, but
the editing process was hard.
Yeah, you have to whittle it down, and sometimes, oh, I know in writing my book, sometimes chopping it up and throwing away stuff, just killed me. I wanted it all in there, but yeah, we need to just give right to the facts, but with story too. So what is, I know your title is Choices, and apparently that is your main message for your audience. You want them to come away with. What else? Is there anything else in there that you'd like your reader to really grab onto?
Well, I am a Christian, and I do have a very strong faith. And so I really believe that God is the one who defines us, and he is the one that has a plan for us. And I do really like my audience to walk away with the sense that God is the one that can define our happiness, not our circumstances, because our circumstances aren't the things that we can control. And so if we can remember that and not put our happiness in those things around us, that's something else that I've had to learn, and something that I hope that my audience will grasp and remember.
Great. So I know of course I haven't read it yet because it hasn't been published yet, but I'm looking at it now. I love your cover. I love landscape pictures anyway, country landscape pictures. Really pretty. How'd you come up with that cover?
Well, actually, my mom and I visited Barnes and Noble and looked through many, many covers and just tried to find something that seemed enlightening and enticing.
Okay.
And I love the idea of a sunrise and mountains, and that's what we came up with. And I took it to my publisher and gave them my vision, and that's what they came back with for me.
Very
So
nice.
thank you. I
Very nice.
appreciate that.
Now, will this be in Kindle and in paperback?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. All right. I see the Kindle edition is up on Amazon now, but that's not for sale until today, March 11th either, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So everything is pre-order on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and on my website, there's ordering options.
Okay. Well, all should be good to go today. I mean, March 11th, we are recording this prior to March 11th, but we will air it on March 11th. So do you have a favorite Bible verse you'd like to share?
Yes, definitely. I love Jeremiah 29:11-13, which talks all about God's plans for us. And it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me, and when you seek me with your whole heart."
It's beautiful, beautiful. Well, tell me, how did it feel to write out your journey? You went through this when you were 29, but you didn't write about it until just last year, right? So how did it feel to finally get it down on paper and then read it back to yourself?
It brought a lot of memories, that's for sure. And it took a lot of help from my family because there were things I didn't remember. So it definitely did take some cooperation from both my parents and my husband to help me remember some of the things that I didn't remember. And so that was very helpful. I think it brought some healing. And 7 years post-stroke, my husband and I decided to embark on the family planning journey that we were trying to have happened prior to the stroke through adoption. So in 2011, we adopted 3 children through international adoption. And at the time, they were ages 6, 8, and 10.
Wow.
So I did cover that also in my book, and we homeschooled for a year. And so that's all covered in my book. So we've been through blessings and challenges with our adoption journey. And so my book really covers a lot, much more than just stroke. I faced epilepsy from my stroke. So we faced job losses, financial, medical, adoption, parenting. There's a gamut of things that we've had to face and that God has carried us through, and it's all in my book. And so I say that that there's a plethora of takeaways for my audience.
Wow. All about challenges and the choices that we make.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And I love the idea that, you know, I've been accused of looking at the glass half full too. You know, I'm the optimist. You know, my husband says I'm what's he say? He says I'm just pie in the sky type of thing. But you know, it's better to look that way than to look down all the time. So
right.
So now what? Another book or what?
Yes, actually, I have a couple things in mind. I am writing a second book already. It's going to be a devotional. It's going to be a 31-day devotional. It's going to be very similar to this one as far as some of the same ideas and some of the same stories, but it's going to be a 31-day devotional. So I am already in the process of writing that.
Good.
So that's in the works. I hope that will come out about this time next year. I also have a very exciting interest in taking my book and becoming a motivational speaker now. So I'm working towards that goal.
Good.
I also would like to start my own podcast in the future for stroke survivors. I think there is a definite need to, a lot of times when you have a stroke or a brain injury, people don't realize we're the same people on the inside. We've just changed on the outside, and I would love to give a opportunity for those individuals to have a voice and give them that avenue. So those are a couple of my goals for the future.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, what advice would you give to first-time authors? I find I want to go back a little bit here because, you're into your second book. And I find that once you write that first memoir, it just kind of opens the floodgates and you can't stop writing. So I want to encourage my audience that, be careful, actually, because once that writing bug hits you, you can't stop. You want to write another one after that. But what advice would you give to first-time authors?
I would say if it's something that you always thought you wanted to do, go for it and don't delay. There's no time like the present. So just start writing, and nothing is bad writing. And take advantage of any opportunity you can to go to a writing conference. There are many virtual opportunities out there. You do not have to go to an in-person writing conference to get
Right.
wonderful training. And my first one was a virtual one, and it was a fabulous opportunity. So that is my biggest advice: is start writing and attend a conference, and get the knowledge of others that could really help you.
Okay, very good. Did you, I give out a lot of writing prompts on my YouTube channel to encourage others to get their stories written for their generations to come. Can you give my audience a prompt?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I would love to. And it goes along with what I already just mentioned. But if you have a passion and a message that you feel called to share, don't feel like you have to wait for the perfect opportunity. I think so many times we think, oh, it's not the right time, or it's not the right audience, or maybe no one cares about what I have to say. You just never know who's going to listen or who needs to hear what you have to say. And there's so many avenues now with social media. It could be a poem, it could be a devotional, it could be a book. You just never know who needs to hear from you. So I would encourage your audience to write from your heart, be vulnerable and be emotional, and get it out there. And find that avenue that works best for you, and not be afraid.
Good, good. I would like to add that if you're in a coffee shop, just get started writing on a napkin. Just write your first sentence, and it could be about how the day is going, but just start writing. That's good. That's good. Well, thank you, Lori. I appreciate you taking this time with me and with my audience. And we look forward to getting your book real soon, hot off the press. So I will put your website in my show notes, and then where they can find your wonderful book too. Okay?
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed your time getting to know Lori Vober and her book called Choices, hot off the press today. It's yours. So be sure to pick up a copy of that. How to get it will be in my show notes. There'll be a link there. Also a link to her blog where you'll find a whole lot more information about the stroke that she underwent and speaking engagements that she has. If you enjoy receiving author interviews like this, or my writing prompts that I send out about 3 times a month, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Click that little bell there so that you're notified of every time I bring out another video like this. So until next time, I'm Judy Shearwaters. You have a story to tell. Let me help you tell it.